you want to talk to Robin in DC about hard versus soft atheism?
No, I don't really. Oh, okay.
No.
Hello.
Go ahead. Yeah. Hello.
Yeah.
Hi, Robin. You're on with Jenna and Jim.
Hello, Jenna. Hello, Jim. How you guys doing?
Pretty good.
So I want to start by asking you guys a question. And the question is, would you consider yourself a hard atheist, or would you consider yourself a soft atheist? I'm sure you guys know the difference.
Depends on how you define them.
So would you consider yourself someone who actively denies the existence of God, or as someone who merely withholds belief in a God?
I guess I am somebody who simply is not convinced that there is a God. I am under the impression that there probably isn't, but I can't prove it, so I'm just at like 99%.
Well, I'm going to provide a definition. I'm going to provide a definition of God that we could work with for the context of this discussion, and then we could. The point is that I want to get to is that if we're talking about God as that which is the fundamental personal cause and grounds of all reality, then there is no neutrality when it comes to belief in such a being. One will either affirm his one will either affirm his existence, or they will deny his existence.
So no. It sounds like my position is that kind of neutral, somewhere in between.
Yeah, there's always a neutral position. There's always the I don't know position.
Right.
Always.
Okay, but the thing is, what I want to explain is that when it comes to certain categories of things, okay, then a neutral position cannot be maintained. So I'm going to give it.
So hold on, real quick, just real quick. Do I have?
Okay.
This is a full deck except for the two jokers. Do I have an odd number or even number of cards in my hand right now?
That's exactly what I said, 30 seconds ago. Depending on the category, right?
No. Answer the question, please. Do I have an odd number or an even number?
Robin, please work with us.
Do I have an odd number or an even number of cards in my hand?
I already know. Yes.
Please, we're doing it for the show. Please.
And that's a position that you claim. Okay.
Right. Okay, I don't know. That is always. I don't know. Always the third position. There's always a third position. There is no category.
I understand that.
So you agree there is no category
that atheists make. But
this is not a claim. This is no. This is not a claim that atheists make. This is a claim that philosophers make. This is in all of philosophy, which where there are no categories. No. All philosophers, atheists or theists, it doesn't matter. All philosophy. It is a philosophical concept across all philosophy, not just atheist philosophy.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's fine. Again, that's not really important because what I'm going to do, at least what I want.
It's not important. Yes, it is, because you're going to try and prove that there is no third position, and I'm telling you there is always a third position.
Would you like to hear the argument, and then you can? Would you like to hear the argument? Would you like to hear the argument, and then you can give a rebuttal after I give the argument to you?
Do it in 30 seconds or less.
This would be beneficial.
Go.
Okay. Well, I'll define God first. Great. I'll define God first. So God would be the personal cause and ground.
No. Explain the category that you. No. Explain the category that means that I can't claim the I don't know position. Explain the category.
Yes. God is in the category of that which is the fundamental necessary cause and grounds of all temporal states of affairs. Okay. So when we're talking about gumballs in a jar or coins in my hand or something like that.
Prove your claim.
I haven't. Right. So I haven't made a claim. I've defined a term.
Yes, you did.
Things. Definitions and claims are two different things. No.
Yes,
listen,
you made the claim. Now prove it.
I know this is your show, but I would like to explain my position to you before getting overtalked. I know this is your show, and I know that your prerogative may be to.
All's we're trying to talk over me. So here's the problem: there is no category that I'm going to agree with you that I cannot take the I don't know position. It simply doesn't exist in philosophy.
Let me explain this, please. I just want to explain it. And of course,
okay, please explain.
After the explanation.
Go ahead. Take 30 seconds. Do your explanation. You're on a clock. Go.
Right. So the definition of God, I'll say this again. God is definitionally would be the necessary personal cause and grounds of all temporal states of affairs. Okay. Now, in your worldview, when you
hold on. He has 30 seconds. He has 30 seconds.
Okay.
Okay. Now, this is a question to you, so I expect you to respond. Do you, when you invoke facts, when you reference any state of affairs, you say, I have a pencil in my hand. Do you do this? When you do this, do you acknowledge God as he's been defined for their intelligibility?
I completely deny your definition, and I reject your definition.
I don't even understand your definition.
Okay. Well, okay. Well, let me just say this. The only ground someone will have to reject a definition is to say that there is some sort of a contradiction.
Hold on, please. What if I simply don't know?
Right. That's what we're talking.
Exactly.
So
are you denying that that's a possibility?
So there's a number of go ahead, answer Jenna's question. I'm sorry.
Are you denying that I can say I don't know?
Yes. If we're defining God as that which is the fundamental necessary cause and grounds of all.
So I can say I don't know about anything except something that has to do with God?
No, I mean, you can label it God, but all I'm doing is defining a term and what it entails. So,
right, and I reject your definition.
That would follow from.
I reject your definition.
I define God as the necessary precondition. So what?
I define God as a giant bowl of spaghetti. Who cares? I define God as a giant bowl of spaghetti. Where are we now?
We have to work with the definition I provided you. That's what we're
Why?
working.
I am working. I'm rejecting your definition, and I'm substituting my definition that God is a bowl of spaghetti.
A rejection of a definition. The only thing you could reject to is some sort of incoherence. And what I mean by incoherence is that there is a contradiction, or the term I'm defining.
No, I can because see here's the problem. Definitions are usages, right? And so you're using in a God the term God in a way that I absolutely reject. I don't define God that way. So where are we?
Well, we're engaging in a thought experiment right now. So unless you don't want to engage in a thought experiment, that would be something else.
I'm engaging in your. I am engaging in your thought experiment. I am simply pointing out that in this thought experiment, the variable that I'm controlling is your definition of God, and I'm saying that my definition of God is it's a giant bowl of spaghetti. Where do we stand?
I'm specifically responding to the fact that if we're defining God as that which is the necessary personal cause and grounds of reality, you cannot be neutral to it. If we're defining God as a bowl of spaghetti,
yes, I can be. I can be because I don't care because I'm rejecting your definition. But I'm rejecting your definition on the fact that I don't agree with it. Right? You need to prove your claim that God is your definition, that your definition is true.
Okay.
Right. I go to a dictionary and look up God and find a whole different definition and common usage of the word God, and you're not using it in that frame. So you don't get to just say, hey, I can't do that.
Let's remove the word God. Let's just say you cannot be neutral towards a being that is the fundamental personal cause and grounds of all temporal states of affairs.
Until you can prove this being exists, I can say I don't know. Okay. Until you can prove your being exists, I don't know is a perfectly good answer, just like I don't know if there's an even number or odd number of cards in my hand. It's the same thing.
Now, I'm going to explain to you why that's not the case. And if you have a rebuttal, I would love to hear it. Okay.
Okay. We'll listen.
Rebuttal is
we will listen.
Philosophy.
We will listen.
Okay. Now, I asked you this question before, but I'm going to ask again. So when you invoke facts, okay, do you reference this being? Do you acknowledge it for the fact's intelligibility? No, you do not.
No.
Okay.
I don't reference anything but the fact that
logically and necessarily follows from that. Right. Now, it logically and necessarily follows that your position holds to the falsity of this being. Okay.
What does that mean? Hold on. What does that mean? Hold on.
No.
Your position holds.
I'm going to explain.
Why are you doing contingent and necessary?
Why do you?
Are you going down the path of contingent and necessary being? Are you going down that path? Is that where you're trying to go?
No, I'm not going down contingent. We're defining the term, and I don't want to use God because of course.
I don't care what the term is. Here I can reference a fact that is isolated based on its own evidence and never ever reference God, and that does not deny anything about any definition of God you care to name. Period. End of conversation. Full stop. It just doesn't.
All right. Okay. I want to focus on the term or the concept that I'm presenting to you. The concept I'm presenting to you is a being that is defined as that which is the personal, necessary cause and grounds of all. I'm defining something. A definition is not a claim that it exists. Do you understand that?
Yes, you're claiming that this being exists.
That's the question. Yes or no question.
And then you're going to assign a name to it and call it a definition.
Hold on,
what I want you to do is prove that you're God. Prove that this being exists.
If you look, hold on a minute. If you look at the notes, I'm sure your call screen has put this up. My claim, it has nothing to do with whether or not God exists. What I put on the notes, and I'm being truthful here, so I didn't lie on the notes. The note there is whether or not you are a soft or a hard atheist. That is what the note says. You can read it in front of you. Okay, so it has nothing to do with me. I'm simply analyzing your position. And if you don't like the fact that your position is being analyzed, I would advise you not to.
I haven't heard a single thing that is analyzed. I haven't heard you do a single thing to analyze whether or not we're hard atheists or soft atheists. You have been trying to define God from the jump. You have failed to do so. And you need to define how your being exists before you can go any farther. And just defining him into existence is absolutely ridiculous, because I can define anything into existence by that logic. I can define a unicorn, I can define the flying spaghetti monster, I can define fairies into existence by just simply going, this is my definition of fairy, and you can't do anything about it. Nya, 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 nya. Well, you're wrong.
No, because I didn't say that it exists. And for the fifth time, I'm going to say that a definition and a claim are two different things. I can define Superman.
I can define you as being nothing but a troll. I can define you as a troll. You're a troll, and there's nothing you can do about it. Right? Right?
Okay.
Nothing you can argue against. I'm not making a claim.
That is fine. If the word troll has a definition,
God has a definition you're not using. Troll has a definition I'm not using.
Calling someone a troll is a very highly subjective. It's a very highly subjective term.
All definitions are subjective. All definitions are subjective.
Hold on.
You can take this, Jenna. I'm bored and done.
Okay. So let's
okay. Yeah, maybe then. Okay, go ahead.
Let's try this one more time. And I just we defined atheist and we defined soft atheist. No, actually we didn't even define those. I just told you what I believe. What am I? Am I a soft atheist or hard atheist according to you?
Well, the thing I came here to call for was that if we were going to conceive of God as that which is the
answer my question?
I'm perfectly aware that there are multiple. Okay, if you're going to conceive of God as that which is the personal, necessary cause and ground.
I don't. So can you answer my question, please? Please, Robin.
Okay.
I asked you. I gave you my definition of what I. Hold on. I explained to you what I believe when it comes to a God. Can you please tell me, according to your definitions of soft and hard atheists, which one I am?
Yeah, I would say that there is no such thing as a soft atheist. That there is.
So I'm not asking you about those. I'm asking you what is the definition of my belief?
The definition of your belief?
Yes. Am I an atheist?
Your belief. Yes.
Am I soft or hard?
That's what I'm trying to. That's what I'm trying to explain.
No, I'm asking you. Am I soft or hard?
That which is. Yeah, you would be hard in the context of God being the necessary precondition of all temporal states of affairs.
So because I'm not convinced that God is necessary, that means that I'm a hard atheist?
Yeah, if we're conceiving of God, again, as that which is, again, this is what I'm saying. I recognize and I acknowledge that there are many different conceptions of God, which is why I'm simply positing a definition for the purpose of a thought experiment. And you guys are I wouldn't say it's you, Jenna, but Jim is just rejecting this definition because he doesn't like it. All I'm asking is for you to engage honestly in a thought experiment and to and address the point I'm making, which is that if we're going to conceive of God as that which is the fundamental, necessary, personal cause of there is quote unquote agnosticism towards that. Okay.
So could I just be an agnostic
somewhere? And well, if we conceive of God as a tree or as a pancake, then sure. But
what if I conceive of God as like Mother Nature?
Yeah, then you can. Well, then Mother Nature that goes undefined. But if we're just going to conceive of the world,
no, I'm defining Mother Nature as the fundamental existence of all that is.
No, then no, you cannot be neutral towards that. If you're defining it the same way I am, and if you're defining it as that which is the foundational cause and grounds, personally, of all temporal states of affairs, then no, there's no neutrality towards that.
So you're making it up?
We're just dealing with
I'm making it up.
We're dealing with concepts.
I know, and I have made up this concept. Hold on, please work with me. I really think this is going somewhere. I explained my concept of what a God is. Actually, this is what I used to think a God was when I was on my little journey out of religion. I believed that my God was personal and that my God was Mother Nature. I'm curious how I could prove that, because I don't believe that anymore. So yes, I did believe that, but I found out that I don't believe that anymore. So I can't prove that it's not. I just don't believe it. Do you understand that?
Yes, but we're talking about something with a certain attribute set. So if the attribute set of what you call quote unquote Mother Nature is that it is the personal, fundamental cause and grounds of all temporal states of affairs, then there is no neutrality towards that. Okay.
Can you say that again slower?
Affirm or deny its existence.
Can you please say that again?
It is the personal. Yes, it is the personal, necessary cause and grounds of all temporal states of affairs. Now,
okay, I don't understand what that means.
That would qualify as that definition. Okay, so
sorry.
When I say personal, what I mean by that is that it has a mind, or that it is a mind, meaning that it is self-aware, it has consciousness, and that it can relate to other minds. Okay. When I say that it is the necessary cause and grounds of all temporal states of affairs, I mean that it has created all things that began to exist.
Okay.
And it is the necessary cause for all things that began to exist.
All right.
Okay. Now, there is no neutrality towards this position, because once you assert that once you make the claim that you can assert and invoke facts without reference to this being, whatever it is, as long as it has a property set, then we're talking about the same thing. You could label it Mother Nature or whatever. But the point is, if you claim to be able to invoke facts without reference to this, you believe that you live in a world where this being cannot coexist. Therefore, it logically and necessarily follows that your position holds to the falsity of such a being.
So I think I see where you're going. You're saying that since I'm not convinced that there's a God, then that necessarily replaces kind of my world view with something other than what you're convinced the world is. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Well, it has nothing to do with what I conceive of the world. I could conceive of the world however I want to. The point is that when it comes to this concept, there is no neutrality towards this concept. And I would call it God, right? But because God would be defined as that in my worldview. But if that's not what you want to call it, that's fine. The property is all that matters. Okay.
So you're saying that you're either convinced that it exists or doesn't, correct? You're either convinced that it exists or you're not.
You either believe it exists or you believe it does not exist. That's what I would say.
What if
it just has to do with your certainty?
Okay, so can I explain something to you? Do you, and this is, please don't take this, I'm not trying to be condescending. I'm not sure how to word this in a nice way necessarily. But do you understand the difference between believing that something does not exist and not believing that something exists? Do you understand the difference between those two?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm confused as to why you deny the not holding a belief all of a sudden when it comes to this worldview. Why does that not apply all of a sudden just because that's the topic?
Because the logical entailment is that this being does not exist. And when we're dealing with explicit claims versus logical and necessary entailments, we take the logical entailment over the explicit claim. So you could explicitly claim, and I could give multiple examples. For example, if I say that my explicit claim is that I took a pencil from somebody, and the person didn't give me permission or consent to take their pencil, but I did not steal the pencil, right? So my explicit claim is that I did not steal the pencil, okay? But the logical entailment is that I did steal the pencil. But we would take the logical and necessary entailment over the person's explicit claim. So they could tell me all day that they didn't steal the pencil. What revealed to me is that they did because they're feeling about somebody's permission, right? So
you lost me.
We would take the logical entailment.
I'm so sorry. You've lost me. I don't understand.
Okay. Well, the explicit claim in the atheist or agnostic position is that they are neutral, right?
Well, but atheists believe different things. Like some people are convinced that there is no God, and some people just don't know.
But I'm responding to you guys. I'm responding to I won't use that generalization. I will say, responding to you, you maintain a position of neutrality.
I do personally, but that doesn't speak for all atheists.
Right.
Right.
That's true. So I'll just speak for you or what you've told me so far.
Right.
So what you've told me is that your position is one of neutrality or simply non-committal. Okay.
Correct.
The point is that your claims implicate you, and the logical necessity or the logical and necessary entailment is that there is no God in the world that you claim to live in.
I can see. So because I can see that because I'm not convinced, simply because I lack that belief, that assumes that I live in a world that is different from what I did believe. Is that what you're getting at?
You live in a world free of God.
Right. So I have to now go and do research on what this world is and how it came to be without assuming that there's a mind who created the universe, correct? Because that's what I did believe.
What you need to do is falsify the notion of God, either by giving a logical necessity or showing what is fundamental and ultimate that is not God.
How can
defined as the personal absolute?
How can somebody falsify a claim like that? Because the thing is that we have a universe.
They cannot.
So we have hold on. Exactly. So why put us in a position where we have to make a claim when y'all are the ones that are telling us that you have all of this information about this creator who created the universe with this mind? And we're saying, well, can you describe it to us? Can you tell us where to find it? Can you tell us how you know? And so we found enough people that can't give us any answers that we can verify with other people, right? Because if something exists, like this mouse exists, right? Like you can agree with me. You see it, right?
Okay.
It's a mouse. It exists. We can objectively agree that this is a computer mouse, right? So that's the kind of confidence that I would like to have in a religion if I believed in a God, especially if that religion requires that I give 10% of my income and every Sunday morning and volunteer for the mass and all these other things. It takes up so much of somebody's life that I would think that you would have to be extremely convinced that this is real to give so much of your life to it. So while you're correct, I do have to assume that I live in a world without a God because I'm not convinced that it exists. But that doesn't mean that I can't change my mind if I find more information. right? So I just have to go with what I have when I have it. Do you see what I'm saying?
Well, the position, that's fine, but that none of that, right? And I would say, okay, fine, but none of that would necessitate the claim that your worldview holds, which is that you live in a world free of God. Okay. The point is that if there is no neutrality, so both sides, I would agree, have the burden of proof. So
I don't understand that. I don't understand how somebody who's not convinced. So you tell me Santa Claus exists, and I say, you know what? I've done a little research. I've looked into it. I'm not convinced. How is that me making a claim? How is that me having to prove that I went to this place and I went to that place? And how can I prove to you what's in my mind?
Well, because we're dealing with the logical entailment, not your explicit claim of neutrality. Not dealing with your claim of neutrality. We're dealing with the entailment of your position, which is all that's really relevant here. I'm
trying to grasp that concept that you're not. Hold on. You're not talking about my position. You're talking about what my position implies.
What you're saying, what you're verbalizing, which is that you're neutral, that is not true if we take a look at what we're talking about. If we're talking about God as the personal, necessary cause and grounds of all temporal states of affairs, okay, there is no neutrality towards that being. One will either affirm it or they will deny it, and this will be either an explicit or an implicit denial. Okay. So what I'm dealing with is how you rationally justify that.
I don't necessarily know that I can, but what does that mean for you? You know, say I can't prove that there's no God. Does that automatically imply that there is just because I can't prove it?
No, it does not.
So then I'm confused at what you're getting at then.
Well, part of the reason I'm calling is to show that the atheist position is not a rational position to hold to, as you've just conceded. Because you just conceded that you cannot rationally justify the entailment of your worldview. If you cannot do that, then why do you hold to? Go ahead.
I don't necessarily. Jim, help me out here. I'm not sure.
So, yeah, I mean, he's finally gotten to his point. And first, I reject your definition. So your entire little thought experiment here goes completely down the drain. Second, we can always choose the neutral position no matter what you say, because there's always a neutral position. Both sides of a claim have to have evidence in order to support them, in order to accept either is true. This is simply the case. So I'm sorry, but we're right back where we started from.
What you've done is you've just ignored what you've just demonstrated here.
You know what? Just go ahead and hang up.
What is the height of what's going on?
Just go ahead and hang up. Go ahead and hang up, please. Thank you. Have a nice day. Hope that helped. And we'll take the next caller.
Okay, well, so that's interesting. I don't understand how a neutral position is a position that somebody has to assert, but I guess if somebody wants to explain that in the chat, we can do that.
No, no one can, because it's so first of all, he starts off with the definition that he says we don't need evidence for it. We just have to accept as true. I reject that. And then everything else builds off that little thing of definition. And so once you reject the definition, everything else goes completely down the drain for him, because you can't really do anything else with it. And he can yell and scream about it all he wants, but I reject the definition. That is not the definition of God. Right. That is not the common usage. And this is part of the problem, right? Is that what the dictionary shows is common usage, which is why words change definitions all the time, is because they change in usage. And so he wants to, and part of the problem is that while that is true, once you start changing what those usages are, you can prove anything, right? But the fact is that a rose by any other name is still a rose, and whether he wants to call it a god or a being or anything else is completely irrelevant. because he's still making a claim that this exists, and I still want evidence for that before he can go down any further.
Right, like he needs to explain that he's saying that this is a God. A God has X and Y and Z. It has a mind. It has been created. It's created everything. You know, there are claims in the definition, and I think that that's not what he was really understanding. But I was just trying to get more to the concept of it, and I think I found where he's confused. I think I found where he may be confused, because I've been there. I mean, I've been in that position.
Right.
Where I just didn't understand it, because my thinking was just so black and white. Like, just to give you an example, when I was early in my marriage and I was learning about my partner, about how in the mornings he's groggy, you know, slow to get up, and I'm one of those, like, up in the morning and I'm awake, right? So I'm like talking 500 miles an hour and he's getting frustrated. And so because he gave me the impression that I was overwhelming him, I was under the impression that meant that I wasn't supposed to talk at all in the mornings. It was, do you want me to talk in the mornings, or do you want me to be quiet? And so I couldn't wrap my head around the possibility that there was this in between, that I could just kind of slow down a little bit. I could talk about different topics, you know. So I just want to point out that I can understand that black and white stuff, you know?
Okay.